Hello, Space Junkies, and welcome to What a Piece of Junk episode number 143, your Star Wars podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your agreeable host, Scott Botman, and joining me is my original co-pilot on the podcast, Mr. Derrick Marsh. Derrick, how's it going?
It's going good, sir. It's almost the end of April already, which is crazy to think. We're already a third through the year. But what's always exciting when May's just around the corner, that means May 4th will be here before we know it. Actually, it'll be less than a week because it'll be next Saturday as we're recording on this, April 28th. So May the 4th be with you.
Absolutely, and may the 4th be with you as well. I plan to go see The Phantom Menace in the movie theater for the 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace, which is just hard for me to believe as a kid from the 1980s. Gen X feeling like an ancient artifact over here, as my son Joseph would say. But you know who isn't an ancient artifact? Well, at least not quite yet, is our very own Gooey Chewy, our very own Dave Filcloni, Mr. Miracle himself, the man of 1,000 nicknames, Nathan Miracle. Nathan, how's it going?
Hey, I hit the big 4-0 earlier this year. I think that qualifies me as ancient.
Definitely not ancient yet at 40. Tell him, Derrick.
No, it's not.
I've got the gray hairs coming in.
I've had gray hairs
like the real
years.
Dave.
Yes, like the real Dave, right? That's just all part of your manipulated aging as being a clone, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
But man, I'm tired today because yesterday you and I went all the way to Atlanta to play in a Star Trek card game tournament, and I got home this morning, shall we say?
Yeah. We didn't get back to the Thunderdome until about 11:30, and then you had to drive another hour and change all the way back to the Queen City. So
Yeah, so if I fall asleep in the middle of this podcast, it's not because you guys are boring, it's because I'm that tired. That's also why instead of blue milk, I have blue caffeinated water.
Ooh. Well, I do have blue milk, something that I'll show later on in the podcast when we get to our merchandising segment. And let me just say, it actually was pretty tasty. My wife tried it. Mita was like, meh. She said I didn't have to worry about her drinking it while I wasn't looking. So there's that. But I have not actually been to Galaxy's Edge to compare it to, quote-unquote, the real blue milk, which is what it's based on from Galaxy's Edge. So, Derrick, when we get to the segment about merch, I'll ask you, for your thoughts, because you've had the blue
forever.
And have you had the green? Did you have the green as well?
No, I did the blue milk, but that'll be 3.5 years ago, so I couldn't tell you. I don't even remember it because I think we got the alcoholic version of it. I can't remember.
Oh, well, so, of course you can't remember.
Yeah, so
you couldn't remember the next day.
Yeah, it wasn't that much, but yes, it was. It was hard
it's
to say
no
whether
Romulan
it was,
ale.
Well, yeah, it wasn't quite that what we had when you guys came down for nationals. And who brought that down? Was that Jared? I think
so.
Hoffman? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember taking one sip of one of those and going, "Yep, I'm out." Which I don't touch alcohol in general. So
yeah.
So yeah,
you just want to try it. It's okay.
I thought it was all right. Derrick came downstairs after you took that sip, Nathan, and he was all like, "Nathan doesn't drink much, does he?" I'm like, "No, like never. Why do you ask?" And he goes, he took one sip of that Romulan ale, and I think he turned white as a sheet.
Yeah, that's correct.
So
I don't know.
Like drinking mouthwash.
I don't know what proof that alcohol was, but it might have been 200.
Yeah. I'll wait for the Star Wars needs to get some wines out there, so.
I bet they're going to with because they're already, like we talked about a few episodes ago on the podcast, they're selling the drinking glasses from Oga's Cantina and the White Star line. Oh boy, the Galactic Star Cruiser line from Galaxy's Edge, Galactic Star Cruiser. Now that nobody's actually using those glasses because the whole thing is shut down. But anyway, speaking of genetically altered, chronologically aging clones, let's talk about some Star Wars The Bad Batch, guys. I mean, I know that a lot of us are looking forward to stuff on May the 4th, and we're looking forward to Star Wars The Acolyte, unless you happen to be particular Australian fans, but we won't mention that. Then we're also looking forward to Star Wars Skeleton Crew, but the guys in The Bad Batch aren't quite done with their adventure just yet, so we're going to talk about the next to last, or penultimate episode of Star Wars The Bad Batch, Flash Strike. That, of course, happened this past Wednesday, and we got to see the Bad Batch finally find their way to Mount Tantiss officially and start their, essentially, attempt at infiltrating the base. Although, based on the way that they made their approach, I don't know if infiltrate is even an option anymore. It may just have to be full-on guerrilla commando raid, because the element of surprise is gone, as we'll talk about here. So, let's jump right into it. Question number 1, what did you like best about this episode, Mr. Miracle?
All right, well, for once, I can say that the thing I liked best about this episode was the Bad Batch themselves.
Ah, yes.
There's been so many times over the course of this show where I've said, you know, my favorite thing about this episode was all the parts that didn't have the Bad Batch in them. This time, the Bad Batch was doing Bad Batch things. They were infiltrating or assaulting, perhaps, as you mentioned, they kind of lost the element of surprise there, but you know, they were on a mission to get into Tantiss base, and they're doing what I always hoped they would be doing, and what they seemed to be doing when they showed up in the Clone Wars, and that's going on a mission, a set. You know, this is our objective. This is what we're trying to do. So I enjoyed getting to see them actually do that instead of just fighting whatever monster happens to show up. Although that happened too. But
why is there always some big monster?
Thank you. But you know, I mean that sometimes the plan goes awry. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth by a giant monster. I'm going with it. It works. I'm standing by it.
Okay, all right. Derek, what did you like best about Flash Strike?
I hate this because I'm going to be negative. I'm happy it's the second to last episode at this point.
The thing I like best is that there's only one more left.
I like the end. You know, when it stopped.
I'm sorry. I mean, I'll at least say this was in the light, so it wasn't like dark. So we actually got some decent animation, I guess.
And I could tell what was happening.
Yeah, that helps.
I mean, there was a couple of funny moments, but there wasn't anything that I could write home about this episode. I'll have some nitpicks in question number 2. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. It had some funny moments.
Okay, all right, I'll take it. My favorite part of this episode was the fancy flying that Hunter gets to do in the atmosphere of Tantiss. Or I guess the planet is named Tantiss as well, right? I think that's right. Anyway, so. The fancy flying that Hunter got to do with the shuttle that they stole. I even loved that after they got hit a couple of times by the classic Death Star anti-aircraft turrets on towers, pew, 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 they blasted the shuttle there, and it was smoking, and they're having to do all these crazy maneuvers, and he just does his best Han Solo / Maverick from Top Gun, where he cuts the thrusters, turns the thing around, shoots a guy, blows up the V-wing, and then kicks the purpley exhaust afterburners and almost, rams another V-wing head on. It was a pretty good amount of dogfighting for the Bad Batch, because we don't see them do a lot of outer space or aircraft kind of dogfighting stuff. So we had a nice big furball right up there in the atmosphere above Tantiss, and then the team had to come up with that really cool escape plan of, let's drop out of the shuttle bay or the cargo bay with the zip lines, and they'll all think that we died in the explosion. And even Commander Scorch almost thinks that, because he basically tells Dr. Hemlock, well, they got shot down and the thing blew up, and I guess we're good. He doesn't say it in that many words, and Hemlock, though, oh man, just king of nefariousness is all. I'm basically, bring me the bodies, It's like the only only way that I knew Tech was dead was that you guys brought the corpse and I got to mess with his goggles. I want to mess with all of their signature items. Bring me the bodies, because I'm the villain. Did you hear that? I'm the villain, tugs on Black Glove. So, I enjoyed a bit over the top. We're leaning really hard here in this last part of the last season into our Flash Gordon roots, because we wouldn't have Star Wars without Flash Gordon. And so this felt like Ming the Merciless wanting Prince Baron or somebody, Clytus, to bring him Flash's body. And of course, in those comics, they never found the body because Flash Gordon didn't die. He escaped some way or was saved by somebody. And then a few issues later, Ming is cursing Princess Ardala or whoever because they helped Flash escape and there was no proof of his demise. So it's a classic cliffhanger moment here of let's make Dr. Hemlock think that we're dead and then we're not. So I enjoyed it for that level. But, Nathan, you've been making a good point about the writing on the Bad Batch isn't necessarily up to, let's just say, this isn't the Mortis trilogy, all right? So we're
not even close.
I'm enjoying it because I'm good with pulp fiction, I'm good with classic sci-fi yarn, and I'm accepting of a pastiche as a writing technique. Because no offense to Brad Rao and the rest of the crew that are producing Star Wars: The Bad Batch, but it's not anywhere on the same level as the Clone Wars because it is not the same. It's a pastiche. It's a gathering of different types of writing styles, sort of paper mached or plastered together to do the thing. It's not the actual thing. I won't go so far as to call it plagiarism because obviously Dave is okay with them copying him. But it's like not everybody can write the way Alex Raymond did with Flash Gordon. So just compare the movie Flash Gordon to the comic strip Flash Gordon, and you'll see it's not the same. And it can't be because Mr. Raymond wasn't the guy doing it in the movie. And in this case, it's not going to be the same as Filoni doing clones because Dave is just sort of maybe consulting. He has bigger fish to fry. There's always a bigger fish.
Delicious.
Anyway. All right, next question. What did you like least about this episode? Derek, we'll let you go first this time since you have a little bit to say.
It's just really because it's the same thing over and over again. We joked about it. It's like, they can't just literally do a mission anymore. It's like, something has to happen. A giant creature, blah, blah, blah. And it's literally the same thing we've gotten for multiple episodes for 3 seasons now. And I'm just tired of it. And I get it's a cartoon, but you can still, it's not like they didn't kill Tech at this point. So if you're going to kill somebody off, then give us something, like it's the second to last episode, like put something on the line, right? It's just like, this is going to happen and then we're going to do this. And it's just literally the same thing over and over and over again. And like I said, I'm just bored with it. Unfortunately, at this point, it's a real shame because I've grown I like the concept of Bad Batch. I like that, it's kind of these, walk the line type deal, mercenaries at first, and then what they were doing, and now they're trying to fight for what's right, with all the whole the clones. I like the political side because you mentioned it earlier, Scott, with say it's not no Clone Wars, because at least in Clone Wars we were getting that political side of things, which is what I really enjoy, right? Like you kind of feel where they've taken Cassian, where they take Andor, right, and they've done that really well, and I feel like they've missed that here, where I would have rather had some more, I don't want to say filler episodes, because to me they wouldn't have been, or at least they wouldn't have felt. I would have rather had them less of the nonchalant episodes with the Bad Batch of, like I said, they left Tantiss, now they're back at Tantiss and stuff like that, when we could have actually had some more political things. Like I would have liked to have seen a bit more involved. Season 2 did a decent job, but then they introduced that characters again with Senator Chuchi and whatever that other, I can't remember the other senator's name that we had, right? Like I would have rather had more of those types of interactions throughout this season to really kind of felt like there's again a bigger picture to all of this, rather than like Rex is taking care of that. Rex is doing all the big stuff behind the scenes while our guys are just literally trying to save Omega. But then yet, like I talked about last time, it's like they're literally just going to keep getting Omega in trouble because they want to do the whole big picture thing instead of just literally leaving and going into a sunset island and go into hiding and never, be heard of again. But yet Omega would be safe, right? Especially since they knew right after Mega and Crosshairs came back that Omega was like the key to the Empire. Like literally, Omega could be the key to the whole reason that the Empire is going to destroy everything. And they're just like, whatever. We'll just kind of let her go along with us and blah, blah, blah. And it's just literally the whole big grand scheme of things is just missed amongst them. And so, like I said, it's a shame because, like I said, I've grown to really like these characters individually. I thought that they were doing some nice things with Crosshairs, but now we're, like I said, literally the second to last episode. It's a cliffhanger with Rampart and all this stuff, and it's just like literally they're just gonna either do a whole bunch of stuff that I'm just gonna be pissed off in this last episode, where there's to me no meaning to it because like if somebody would have died in this episode, would have felt like, oh no, okay, like game on, right? Like you didn't have to have the repeat of them handling a big robot or a big creature or anything like that. So I don't know, just gonna feel like there's gonna be a bunch of plot holes. Yeah, maybe they're gonna, bleed into another series, right? Maybe we're gonna get the Rex series for a season or two, right? How he's gonna help them and then go into hiding or something, and I don't know. Or maybe we'll get the Asajj Ventures Bounty Hunter season or series or something. But overall, like I said, it's I'm just done with these guys at this point because, to your point, Scott, like that's why I liked Filoni because he did so much under George Lucas, and George Lucas essentially trained him, right? I don't feel like Dave Filoni is training anyone to take his place. Like, I'm not expecting Filoni to go anywhere at this point, but if he's going, to your point, have bigger fish to fry, then he needs to entrust one person to kind of handle the animation better, right? To be like, I trust this person to write this stuff that the fans are clamoring. Like, we all loved Clone Wars. We loved Rebels. That's why Filoni's in the position he's in now. And you can't always mimic that, and I appreciate doing something different, but if you're going to take those same characters that Filoni did, then I expect them to be treated the same way to some degree, right? Like, I don't know. It's just a jumbled mess. So anyways, that's my soapbox and why, a lot of why I'm disappointed with this episode. Because again, it's just going to feel like this last episode, 23, 24 minutes, unless if they somehow make it a 48-minute last episode without telling us. But it just feels like everything's going to be rushed and we're just going to have a bunch of plot holes.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with most of what you said, Derek, in that I'll just sum it up and say this episode was way too formulaic. And we had the trappings of Star Wars, but we could have swapped everybody out for an entirely different group of characters, and nothing really would have changed that much in this episode. This could have been, I'm not going to strain my Flash Gordon analogy too far, but I'll just give you the rundown. We could have had Dale, Dr. Zarkov, King Thun, and Prince Baron steal a shuttle, go to some secret base that Ming runs, and try to rescue Dale Arden from a bunch of evil troopers. And that would have been, and then when we crash into the jungle on Arborea, we have to fight something that is equivalent to the Zillo Beast. Or, not equivalent to the Zillo Beast. Sorry, the Zillo Beast actually was in this episode. We have to fight something that is like a big forest gorilla. We have to fight a Mugato. Right? So, plenty of things that we could have done that would have been the most, not limited to Star Wars at all. And also, most importantly, like Derek was saying, is it really progressing us anywhere? We need to rescue Dale. Omega. But, that's almost a foregone conclusion at this point. And there isn't really much, just a tiny little bit building on to the Star Wars mythology in this episode. And really in this entire season of The Bad Batch, just a tiny little bit building on to, like Derek said, Omega might be the key to the entire Empire because she's the key to the entire plan for Project Necromancer for Palpatine to somehow Palpatine returned. Well, hey, this is how. It's because of Omega. It's because he's been about making clones from the get-go. It's because Ming the Merciless never dies. Sorry. But yeah, that's exactly the storyline here, right? Ming's cloned himself many times. in various Flash Gordon stories. And then he even did the whole "I'm dead and have no body, but my spirit is inhabiting this artifact, and I trick my son into coming and trying to take it to assume ultimate power." But really, all he does is open the jar and free my spirit to take over his body, and bam! I have a new young body because I had a son, which turned out to be a clone. Man, this is all starting to sound familiar. Did somebody give J.J. Abrams a stack of Alex Raymond's scripts? Anyway, and so, my complaint is I didn't like the formulaic nature. I felt like this could have been produced by artificial intelligence. Feed it a bunch of Flash Gordon and Clone Wars episodes, bam, you get this episode of The Bad Batch. Anyway, Nathan, what did you dislike about this episode?
Well, you two went on big overarching things. I have a very specific, granular moment in time in this episode that I greatly disliked, and it's a trope that we see very often, and I hate it every time we see it. It's, oh no, our hero is missing from their cell or wherever they're supposed to be. Or sometimes you see this trope as our heroes trying to sneak in somewhere and they're hiding in a specific spot, and the guards are coming around to check on them, and when they get there, either they've disappeared if they're not supposed to be there, or in this case, Omega is in her cell. Just all of a sudden she's in her cell, even though moments ago we saw her checking out the Zillow Beast elsewhere in the base. Suddenly she's back, and we just kind of skip over her getting back. And I get that it's supposed to be a tense moment of, oh no, what are they going to do when they find out that she's gone? And then rug pull. Nope, actually she's there. It's fine.
Everything's cool. Everything's fine here. We're all fine. How are you?
I hate that trope. I hate it every time I ever see it. It never makes sense to me because I always question, how did that person know that this was the exact moment that they needed to get back? To increase the tension. We got to get back at just the right moment that they're not there, and then all of a sudden, boom, they are. Why? Why did we use that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, and you didn't hear what we talked about last week, Nathan. It was the same thing we complained about. Was I have no understanding why anyone would build something like. I understand the way the things has to transport. And that was pretty cool the way it looked. And I understand that, okay, they need to actually fit people in there to repair it, right? Like if something gets stuck in there, they have to be able to have people to go in to pull it out, right? Or at least send a droid or something, right? That they could go get it and whatever that, the vials. But one I didn't understand was, again, why would you literally have it connect to prison cells, right? Where anybody can crawl through it, right? Like if you would have had it with just the thing and then the rest of the wall was solid, like, okay, that might have made sense, right? Like if it literally is enough to fit the little box in. But apparently you can just dismantle the whole wall, which makes no sense.
Well, now that I think I can at least provide an explanation. And that is Omega is very small. They have built it to where an adult human could not crawl through there. And much like with the Death Star, they don't consider children to be a threat. So they didn't bother having a tight enough security to prevent children from being able to crawl through those tunnels.
Yeah.
It's standard Imperial overconfidence.
Yeah.
But then my other thing that was so funny was like literally how many blood samples are they taking? Because they said they only take twice a day, but that was like literally going like every minute. It seemed like
well,
like how many bloods are samples are they taking from all these troopers?
Apparently, this is only a small section of the base too, because we have a whole Zillow Beast hiding in there.
Yeah, and he's like deep down within the bowels of the mountain or something. No, you misunderstood though, Derek. Only one time when the canister went by Omega was it filled with blood samples. The other 78 million times that we saw the canister go by, it was filled with Imperial-grade hot sauce. Because all those troopers demand better hot sauce all the time. Because the rations they get served at Mount Tantiss are horrendous. You gotta put I gotta put Frank's Red Hot on everything around here. So
right.
we push a button
about that.
and glowing red tubes of hot sauce come hurtling by right out of the wall, baby.
So
That said, it would make sense if they transported more than just blood vials that way.
Hot sauce. I just explained it.
It makes you wonder though where the hot sauce is coming from, because it's got to be coming from like some giant bug's butt.
Yes. Yes, that's what Zillo Beast.
Zillo Beast.
That's why
blood
he's
is
there.
hot sauce.
Angry Zillo Beast blood. So that you have to keep blasting him with the thingy, because it's only hot sauce when he's mad. When he's not mad,
Yeah.
he's just chill. It's the green verde stuff, and that's just gross.
So, anyways, my least favorite part of this episode was oh, look, Omega's actually in her cell, even though moments ago we were led to believe that she was nowhere close to her cell and she would be caught. You know,
The
let her be
incredibly
caught.
lazy trope.
Yes, let her be caught. Have that be an obstacle that they've got to overcome. Or don't pretend that we're going to have her not be in her cell. It's a terrible trope. It needs to die.
Yeah, it would have been a lot better if they would have been like, "Oh, where's Omega?" And like she just went off and just like unleashed the Zillo. At least that would have been something more original. Yes, we still would have gotten a giant beast dealing with, but
or leave it as a cliffhanger. As okay, they walk
That
into
too.
the cell and she's not there. Oh snap! What are we going to do next episode? But no, everything's fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this to me though, I'm happy to see Zillo there because Omega ends this episode, Flash Strike, by saying, "I found our way out," and so she's obviously got this plan of release the Zillo Beast, and he's going to wreck shop, and they're going to escape in the chaos, right? But of course, that makes me a little bit happy because that means we will once again get an episode of the Bad Batch, the last one, where Wrecker's immortal line applies. Why is there always some giant monster? And there's gonna be the giant monster, not some giant monster.
So
The
many giant
giant
monsters. So many.
Yep.
They don't fight actual Imperials. They just fight
Yeah.
giant monsters. And in this case, get giant monsters to fight Imperials for them.
Yeah. I mean, they even had the robot giant monster in last season when they went to that planet with V and they found the long dormant technology and turned on the thing that basically was Mecha Zillo Beast.
Yep.
Oh man, if the Empire has found that and they deploy it next episode to fight the real Zillo Beast, we got Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla. I'm in. Although that does really lean into my pastiche theory. This
Yeah, it
isn't
does.
a script. This isn't a script written about Star Wars characters. This is somebody's Star Wars role-playing game from over the summer, just written down and animated. Because everybody brings in weird, random stuff from movies and TV shows in their D&D campaign.
That's true.
So clearly, they do it in their Star Wars RPG as well.
Or we actually
All
need to
right.
do true research and figure out if these writers do exist or not, because you could be right. They're just throwing in an AI spitting it out. And they just made up they just made up these 8 people that wrote stuff and just create the little Facebook pages and all that stuff. So
There is no Brad Rao. There is no Brad Rao. Come on, that's the most Star Wars name I've heard in real life. Brad Rao, R-A-U. What kind of a name is that? I'm just
It's a
kidding,
name
Brad.
that
You're
get
immensely
if you
talented.
put into AI and ask for a Star Wars name, you get that.
You know what? Give me a plausible name for a Star Wars author. And much like it always does, artificial intelligence misunderstood the assignment and gave you the name of an author in the Star Wars galaxy. Like Andor and friends read paperback novels written by Brad Rao.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. That makes way more sense than it ought to.
Yeah. I'm kidding, Brow. If you ever happen to listen to this, Brad, if you ever happen to listen to this episode of this podcast, or any episode really, we think you're great. We'd love to have you as a guest on the show.
Prove you're real.
That's right. Are you a robot?
Challenge.
He's at his house with the email I sent him. Oh yeah, do this CAPTCHA at the bottom of the email. He's all, why can't I click this button? Anyway, okay, so question number 3. What connections did you draw to the rest of the Star Wars galaxy where obviously its best-selling Star Wars author Brad Rao? No, I'm just kidding. I did, we said the Zillo Beast, a little more easier ones, but I still enjoyed the V-Wings. I love seeing a cool V-Wing fighter, and in this case, not just on patrol or flying by in the background on Coruscant, but like actual dogfight with V-Wings. So that was cool. And then, of course, the the idea of Rampart helping them fight the stormtroopers, and then some stormtroopers just sort of come out of the fog there, mist in the jungle, and just immediately stun him, and he's just kind of like. You got to think, though, occasionally, after all that's been happening to him in the jungle, Rampart is all like, oh, thank God they're going to stun me. Because he's ready to get out of there. He actually didn't want to go down there in the first place, and then his winch busted, and Hunter was all like, don't worry, I know how to fix this. Blam! I mean, at least the Bad Batch had on their plastoid-type armor to absorb the fall. I mean, Rampart's going to be sore when he wakes up. You always have a headache when you wake up from getting stunned, but he's going to be, like, sore from head to toe from all that, stop, drop, and roll stuff.
And he's going to be pissed because if he dies in a captain's uniform and not a vice admiral's uniform.
Not a vice admiral, that's right.
The disgrace, the dishonor.
Yeah, totally. Okay, Derek, what connections did you draw to the rest of the Star Wars galaxy?
Every previous Bad Batch episode that we just talked about.
Yeah, right. Can I do connections to Flash Gordon? Because I could talk for the rest of our podcast episode about that.
You could.
Interesting enough, the episode has Flash in it, right? So.
Oh my!
Yes, it does.
Oh my God! Okay, if that was on purpose,
if that was on brought it up, Scott.
I know. If Brad did that on purpose, he's definitely a real human, and this is absolute pastiche. Oh,
what
man.
do you mean the Bad Batch is approaching in a stolen tunnel?
Oh, that's great. Oh, man.
But no, I mean, there's. I'm just trying to think, like. Really, at this point, I was just trying to think if there was anything that was majorly. I mean, the only thing I could think of is like, okay, there's Andor and there's water again because that's where the giant Zillo beast is a tank of water. And then I don't really know. I mean, there's little tidbits of things that we could say like, oh yeah, it was cool to see, this, that, but nothing major. That I would say like, like do the whole, meme picture of Leonardo DiCaprio, right? From, he's pointing at the TV screen like, oh yeah, that got me going. So, anyways, I'll pass it over to Nathan.
Yeah, from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, by the way. Excellent movie, although the resolution of that film is a little wonky, but this is not a Quentin Tarantino podcast. So, Nathan, what you got?
Not all that much, again, other than connecting to other Bad Batch episodes. Other than to say, when Echo is accessing the droid panel on the shuttle, it's an RA-7 droid that comes in and basically tells them, "Hey, you're not allowed to be here. I'm the droid you're looking for.
Yeah.
You got to get out of here." That's about it. Actually, other than things that we've mentioned several times in previous episodes. Like
now that you bring up that scene with Echo and the RA-7 droid, I kind of feel like we do have a bit of a recurring theme about in Star Wars, the heroes get dismembered in some way. Because we had Echo put that robot hand on his already fake hand. There was a moment in the jungle where Wrecker is talking to Crosshair about Tantiss, and Crosshair says something like, "I've been here before and I hated it then," and he subconsciously shakes his hand because whatever happened to his hand happened here at Tantiss, And then, of course, every time you see Hemlock, it's all, "Look at my big black glove. Aren't I the most Darth Vader-y guy?" So, yeah, I think maybe there's some kind of a reference there. Oh, dude. What if they've been telegraphing to us this whole time that we're going to get a time jump in the final episode and see the remnants of Mount Tantiss being rebuilt by the Empire post-Cloud City duel, and Luke's hand is in the canister in the lab where we've been seeing them do all the clone stuff. And that whole look at all these hands has been a foreshadowing of that moment the whole time.
And then we see a young Moff Gideon.
Yeah,
that could be. Because I
think you're giving them too much credit, but that would be cool.
Well, it would be a little bit similar to the Clone Wars. How in the end we had Darth Vader show up and see all of the helmets and whatnot, and find out that Ahsoka's dead, or is she? Hint: no. She's still alive. Just in case you.
There is a bit. Thank you. What? There is a bit of a tradition
Spoilers.
there, because in addition to the Clone Wars season 7 ends with a bit of a time jump. Rebels ended with a time jump at the end of the finale to show us post Return of the Jedi, and Ahsoka's still alive. What? And
Oh my gosh! We need to see that Ahsoka's still alive in this
Spoiler
one
alert.
too.
Right.
All Star Wars cartoons must end with a time jump that shows us Ahsoka's still alive.
Yeah, although the one that didn't do it was Resistance, but maybe we don't. We don't
that
talk
one
about
doesn't-
Resistance. Yeah.
It wasn't done by Filoni, right?
No, I don't think it was. Was it?
Was it not?
Resistance?
I thought he
Maybe it
was
was.
like I thought he was like executive producer, right? But he didn't actually contribute and write stories for it.
Well, yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yes, I think you're right about that.
Yeah,
too.
he put his
Yeah,
name on
produced
it so that we would be excited about it, but then, you know,
Creator and
Anyway.
executive producer of Star Wars Resistance, which is not the same thing as writer.
yeah.
Right.
Anyways,
Okay, question number 4. Nathan, you can kick it off this time. So, actually, this is your question, right?
No, this is Derrick's question, but I'll go ahead and ask it so that Derrick can talk about it. Hey, Derrick. So, with Rampart's actual capture, he looked upset. So, do you think he'll still betray the Bad Batch?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, right? But to me, again, I think if he would have wanted to do this the whole time, like he just would have ran up to the stormtroopers, like, "Oh, there's stormtroopers. Let me go over there." So I actually think that he won't, unless if Hemlock like provides something at this point to him. But again, there's not enough time for all this to happen.
Yeah.
We're literally one episode away, right? And if we're gonna do a time jump, that's at least 10 minutes towards the end of the series. So, so I don't think at this point he's going to do anything. Like I said, because I think if he was going to betray them, he would have already been like, "Hey, don't shoot, don't shoot."
Over here, Misa giving up.
No,
Yeah.
give it up,
I mean-
General Jaja.
Misa giving up. I'm inclined to agree with Derek, but for a slightly different reason. I think he already did betray them, and he's just really playing it to the hilt out there in the jungle. Because when the shuttle was coming in to the atmosphere at Tantiss, over in the command center, Commander Scorch was like, "Sir, Clone Force 99 has stolen a shuttle and is approaching the base." "What do you mean, Clone Force 99 has stolen a shuttle?" Sorry, but Hemlock was all like, yes, Clone Force 99 is approaching the base. Let's terminate them with extreme prejudice. Like they knew immediately, not just that somebody was approaching the base, they knew who it was, and then they were all like, they broke into the starbase above Coruscant, and got the access codes and hijacked the block. And I'm like, if you guys knew all this stuff, why didn't you either A, shut them down while they were attached to the underbelly of the science vessel, which, by the way, guys, was it just me, or was the science vessel a lot bigger this episode than it was last episode? Maybe it was camera angles or something, but I felt like last episode, Derek, you and I talked about this, that the shuttle took up way more real estate on the underbelly of the science vessel back at Coruscant. I mean, I know hyperspace is a different dimension, and sometimes if you travel at the speed of light for a certain amount of time, it's like relative. It's like time and relative dimensions in Hey, wait a minute. This is another pastiche. Anyway, but anyhow,
on the
I
inside.
feel like Rampart may have sent them some kind of a coded message to be all like, "Guys, you're never gonna believe what just happened over Coruscant at the shuttle yard. Clone Force 99 broke in there and stole a shuttle, and now they're on their way to Mount Tantiss." Like, the whole thing could have been reported by Rampart. That's my theory.
Or maybe that one lieutenant guy finally woke up in the meantime, and that's what he.
The dude with the head. But then, like, would they? Is Clone Force 99 so well known that rando lieutenant guy was all like, "Oh, that was Clone Force 99. How could I have been so stupid?" Right?
I mean, we talked about like how Wrecker sticks out like a sore thumb in a
does.
trooper uniform. So
And somebody did
So he
mention.
doesn't need to say it's Clone Force 99. He just needs to say it was a guy in Stormtrooper armor, but he was massive. And Hemlock's yeah, okay, there's one guy.
Clone Force 99. Let me adjust my black glove and plan on how to defeat them. So, yeah, okay.
well, it's either that or if he was Ming, he would be moving his ring around.
His rings. You got it. Yes. Good job, Derrick. I'm so proud of you. All right. Nathan, your answer to this question. Is Rampart going to be curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal?
I think so, and he's going to expect that, since I'm betraying the Bad Batch, you're going to reinstate me as Grand Vice Admiral, insert lots of
Grand
too many
Poobah.
adjectives and Hemlock is going to pretty much immediately be like, thanks, your usefulness is at an end. And then he'll realize, oh no, I shouldn't have betrayed Bad Batch because they were right about the Empire betraying me first. And then he'll do what would that be at this point? A quintuple cross?
It's like you're doing a whole 360 on me.
It's 180. Anyways, yeah, I think he'll try to betray them. The Empire will immediately be like, thanks, but we still don't need you. And then he'll end up betraying the Empire in some way. And it'll be as simple as, okay, I'm going to go like unlock this door that ends up allowing Omega to get to the Zillo Beast to release it or something like that.
Last dying breath.
Yeah.
Bleep. I will free the Zillo Beast and transmit the recipe for Zillo Beast hot sauce to one Dexter Jetster.
Chulman. He sends it to Chulman, the Wookiee who owns the cantina in Mos Eisley, and that's the whole reason that Han Solo goes there.
Boom.
Well, Chewie would go there.
Chewie too, yeah. Which means that's the whole reason that Obi-Wan and Luke meet them. There you go. There's our connection. And I'm not making random stuff up at all.
Eat your heart out, R5D4, and the people who say he's the reason that the entire trilogy began and he was the world's only Jedi droid. I wish I was making this up, but check out some Legends stories there, kids. You'll really like it. All right, well, speaking of weird stuff that's obscure references for Star Wars, we got the Zillo Beast bopping around again. Derrick, what's your question here, number 5? Sorry, Nathan. Yeah, ask Nathan his question. Yeah, there you go. Ask Nathan his question.
What is happening with the Zillo Beast?
Well, clearly, I've answered this like 6 times. They're keeping him captive to make hot sauce. No. I think that Palpatine still has this crazy idea about cloning the Zillo Beast and deploying him as some sort of weaponized biological terror. He's really into the biological terror weaponization thing because he was trying to do that at that other clone modification research base where the big green tentacly plant thing got completely out of control and took over the whole base in an earlier episode this season. And so the Zillo Beast is just, project number 7252 to use the Kaminoan cloning technology to create some sort of biological super weapon. Man, let me tell you, the Sith Empire of old was just rife with plans for superweapon. Biological, technological, mythological, anything that you can think of. They were trying to weaponize it to destroy entire planets, or at least destroy entire cities. And the Death Star was Palpatine's culmination of really, really old Sith tradition, but finally bringing it into the Galactic Civil War era. And as you can tell, he'd been trying to do that with the Zillo Beast, the plant thing. I could name any number of crazy schemes that he had for some sort of weapon that can threaten the whole galaxy. So now everybody has to do what I say, or I'm going to blow them the freak up. And so yeah, that's what's up with the Zillo Beast. They're trying to copy him. I think they even mentioned capturing him to try to use him somehow in his original appearance in the Clone Wars movie, didn't they? Anyway, but yeah, that's totally what's happening with the Zillo Beast. Nathan, what do you got?
All right. Well, what I got is a couple of things. One, it was not the Clone Wars movie. It was a two-part episode, or two-episode arc, I should say.
Yeah. My bad. Sorry.
And I should double-check this, but I believe it actually died at the end of that, and that this is a clone.
Okay. Hey, even more evidence.
So yes, cloning. But I think that we've been led astray with the whole clone of Palpatine thing, and us thinking that, oh well, this is going to help explain somehow Palpatine returned. Although I think they're working on that too. I think that the whole M count thing is we're trying to make a Force-sensitive Zillo Beast, a Sith Zillo Beast.
A Sitho Beast. A Zillo Sith.
But of course, that's not going to work because Omega is going to reach out to it and be all, "Hey, don't you want to be a Jedi Zillo Beast?"
A Jadillo Beast. Okay, now I'm really stretching it.
She's going to ride the Mythosaur.
Yes, she's going to ride the Mythosaur. She's going to ride the Rancor at least. Yeah.
I think we're going to like a bantha.
Like a bantha.
Yeah, I think we are going to get something similar to that, where they've somehow gotten M count in the Zillo Beast, and that's actually going to allow Omega to communicate, rudimentarily at least, but a little bit like how Asajj was able to communicate with the fish, the bigger fish.
Or perhaps you are super correct, and not just like Asajj was able to communicate. Asajj is going to show up. She's the cavalry from The Cavalry Arrives. She shows up, mind melds with the Zillo Beast. Zillo Beast saves the day. Cliffhanger is Asajj walks over to where the Bad Batch and Omega are hanging out, and it's all Gracie is pregnant. I mean, the Zillo Beast is pregnant.
Could be, but I think Omega's too important. I think even if Asajj shows up, she will facilitate Omega doing that, but it's going to have to be Omega who does it.
Yeah, perhaps the Zillo Beast itself is the titular cavalry.
Could be.
All right, Derrick?
Riding the Zillo Beast.
Yeah, maybe.
Like
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Creating a super weapon using some type of beast or animal. I'm going to go with, though, that they actually need the Zillo Beast DNA to be able to make whatever they want to do with the Force-sensitive clones, because, he can conduct electricity and all that stuff. And that's what Sith shoot. So maybe it's used for some part of the DNA mix. But yeah, that'll be my guess. Though, like I said, we all came up with stuff. It could, again, just be Hemlock being Hemlock, right? And he's just trying to cross things together like we talked about, like he already did with that
crossing
plant
the
thing.
streams.
Yeah,
Yep.
He did with that plant thing that we talked about, whatever they called it. So this may be the thing that helps blow up Mount Tantiss originally, that he does. There'll be, like you said, the Mecha Zillo and the real Zillo, and Asajj will come, and the cavalry will come with the other clones, and they'll vanquish the bad Zillo. But in the meantime, it'll blow up Mount Tantiss. So.
Now, I will say, with the original Zillo Beast, it seemed like the goal, or it seemed like Palpatine's goal would have been to take the hide from the Zillo Beast, because that seemed near impenetrable and resistant to blaster fire and all of that, to try to make armor.
There's dragon scales.
Yeah, and that seems to have just kind of been dropped. So it's possible that that's what they're doing, and I'm way off base with the whole Force-sensitive Zillo Beast. But you know what? I hope not. I kind of like the idea of Force-sensitive Zillo Beast.
And I like the idea of Mecha Beast versus Zillo Beast.
Yeah, so
Star Wars Kaiju.
Mecha Beast and Zillo Beast are fighting, and then all of a sudden, regular Zillo starts using the Force on Mecha Zillo.
That's it. Totally. All right, cool. Well, if any of those things happen, you can be guaranteed that we're going to talk about them on the next episode of What a Piece of Junk. But this isn't the only show that you can hear on the Fandom Podcast Network where people ramble on about crazy fan theories and then react badly as to how it doesn't turn out. No, there are plenty of other shows on the Fandom Podcast Network that do that and also do a lot more professional sounding podcasting. So here to tell us all about them is our friend Kevin.
Thank you for listening. We hope you're enjoying this podcast. Here are the other great shows on the Fandom Podcast Network. Culture Clash, where we discuss the latest in entertainment and pop culture. Blood of Kings, our show covering the entire Highlander universe. Couch Potato Theater, we celebrate our favorite movies. And Time Warp, our fandom flashback show discussing a year in movies and our favorite retro movie, TV, and pop culture topics. Good Evening, discussing all things Alfred Hitchcock. Hair Metal Podcast, we cover the rock metal music of the 80s and early 90s. Type 40, a Doctor Who podcast, discussing the time-traveling Doctor Who universe. Lethal Mullet, an action film podcast covering the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Also, check out the Lethal Mullet Network for more great podcasts. What a Piece of Junk, our Star Wars podcast. Making Treks, a Star Trek podcast with a deep dive into the final frontier. The Fandom Show, our Fandom Podcast Network live YouTube show discussing the hottest topics in fandom. The True Believers MCU podcast discussing the Marvel Cinematic and Television Universe. Union Federation, our Star Trek and the Orville show. And we're proud to welcome the BQN Network to the Fandom Podcast Network. Please visit our friends on the BQN Network, a Star Trek Universe podcast that also includes your favorite topics, movies, history, superheroes, and more. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on YouTube. The Fandom Podcast Network is also on all major podcast platforms. The Fandom Podcast Network audio master feed is on Podbean at fpnet.podbean.com. You can find the Fandom Podcast Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at fandompodcastnetwork@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, respect others and enjoy your fandom.
All right, thanks very much, Kevin. So, guys, we got a little bit of interesting Star Wars economic news from a Marvel comic this week. Nathan, since you're our economist guy, I'm going to let you take it away. Well, I will once you come back from the commercial break.
There we go. Absolutely. So this comes from Screen Rant, or at least that's the outlet that is telling us about it. This is actually a spoiler for Star Wars number 45, the comic, and it tells us how much money the rebellion actually had. Apparently, someone has kidnapped Mon Mothma. They have set a ransom, and that ransom is 200 million credits. And
200 million credits.
And Admiral Akbar says, well, we can't pay that. That would be all the money we have. So apparently the rebellion has 200 million credits, which it may be a lot. That's a big question about money. Money is almost meaningless in a numeric value because you have to kind of know how much things are worth for a number to make sense. If I say that something is X number of dollars, that's way more, say, Japanese yen than American dollars. But that just means that the numbers are different. So that doesn't really give us an idea of how much money 200 million credits is. Yes, Derek.
Yeah.
Yes, we do know that in A New Hope, right, when they Han and Chewie bid with Kenobi and Luke, that it's 15,000, right? And then he's like, "Well, I might as well buy my own starship for that, right?" So probably let's say 20,000 might be what the actual price of a starship would cost. So that'd be like 10,000 ships.
And he only gets 2,000 for his used speeder.
Yes.
Good. Now, was it? I thought it was 10,000 though.
Was it 10,000? Okay. Either way, still, I mean, that's even.
He says, Obi-Wan ends up saying, "I can give you 2,000 now, and 15 when we reach Alderaan." And that 17,000 was way more than Han had originally asked for.
Fair enough. Either way, still, but then that's lower, so that means you can buy more ships with it, though.
Yeah. So 200 million credits then seems like a lot if, a starship is, say, 20,000 credits. But you're also talking about a galactic civil war. And in that respect, it's not that much.
And I'll bet that something like a Nebulon B frigate or any of the capital starships, way more than 20,000 credits. And so, they're not winning the war with a fleet of Corellian freighters like Han runs, or skyhoppers like Luke was probably thinking of buying with his 20,000 credits or whatever.
Maybe even an X-Wing, even if an X-Wing was 20,000.
Yeah.
So
Even then, we had so many X-Wings that we know were operating. Now, granted, a lot of the materiel for the rebellion was stolen. We just straight up took it from somewhere instead of buying it. Fine, sure, guerrilla warfare, freedom fighters, etc. We're not pirates, sir. We're privateers. And so, if your cause is just, then perhaps the ends justify the means. Perhaps not, depending on how you want to debate that. Sometimes it probably does. Sometimes it doesn't. I think Andor was a nice look into the shady side of the rebellion, where you're like, whoa, all right, listen, the ends do not justify these means. Hey, Saw Gerrera and partisan friends, let's dial it back on the blowing up women and children to get our point across. The Empire does that. We don't. Although, of course, Saw Gerrera and his friends would probably say to me, when I said, aren't you supposed to be the good guys? And they'd be all, you killed them, sugar. Now you got me. So,
but
that's a whole different take there.
I wouldn't put past it, though, if at some point we find out that the Empire's been selling the rebellion weapons anyways.
Well, at least some of the arms dealers were, for sure, when it came around to the next war, where DJ explained all that to Rose and Finn in The Last Jedi.
But I wouldn't even be surprised, though, like I said, because that's, we're supposed to be, the Empire is supposed to be based off the United States, so it wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if that was the case, right? So,
but the real question, though, is not how much money does the rebellion have. It's what kind of income sources does the rebellion have? Because having 200 million. Think of money like a bathtub. Your wealth is how much water is in the bathtub right now. Your income is how much water is coming out of the faucet. But you also have an outflow. How much water is draining out of the tub at any given moment. It doesn't really matter how much water is in the tub. If there's more water going out the bottom than coming in the top, then the tub is going to drain out. So they need income more than they need like an established amount of wealth.
Well, that's why they keep stealing it from the Imperials, a.k.a. Andor, 80 million.
That is where they get their income, is liberating it from Imperial hands.
Which illustrates to me a slight problem, one of the slight problems with this article from Mr. Kevin Erdman over at Screen Rant. I mean, I get it, Kevin. You got to produce content. I'm with you, bro. I'm a writer for a living. But you don't put a whole lot of analysis or critical thought into your article here, because Akbar saying 200 million credits is all the money we have. We can't pay this ransom. It's a trap. It's because that's all the money they have right at that moment. Like Nathan was just talking about the bathtub. The bathtub right now has 200 million credits in it, but next week we're going to open the faucet and pour a bunch more money in there. However, next week we're also going to have to pay out 80 million worth of coaxium fuel costs or something, or we got to hire Bush and some other mercenaries to go distract Darth Vader, whatever the case may be. So I don't know that we can say
on all those ships.
Yes. So, I don't know that we...
That's not actually a cash transaction, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect your cash flow.
Right. We can't really say that definitively Star Wars issue number 45 proves that all the money the Rebellion ever had, maximum total for the entire Galactic Civil War, was 200 million credits and not a single Mon Calamari flan more. Maybe at one point they had 300 million credits. But just right now in the story in Star Wars issue 45, when Mon Mothma's been kidnapped, the most money that Akbar can get his hands on, would be 200 million credits. And he'd be all, that's all the money we have. until next week when Han and Chewie show up with more
Or
crates
tomorrow,
of cash.
when we get paid.
Or tomorrow. Yeah, when we get paid. Yeah.
And there's also
After we sell the plans for the B-Wing
And that's
to
all
the
Admiral Akbar knows of.
Yes, yeah, that's
That too.
the other thing. Does Admiral Akbar have that close of a bead on how much money the rebellion actually has? Is he actually the rebellion's accountant? I somehow doubt it. You don't generally have your field admirals as your accountants.
No, and he doesn't really have a bead on things anyway. He doesn't have a bead on things anyway. His vision is a little more wide angle, kind of a fish eye.
Fish Island? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He sees everything in a bowl, so.
I could imagine that Admiral Akbar knows that we have about that much at any given time, but probably doesn't know, okay, this is the exact balance of all our bank accounts that we don't actually have because the Empire controls all the banks. And
There is no galactic bank.
and in Star Wars, we see in Andor, we have physical money. When people get paid, they hand them a stack of credits. It's not, oh, this goes into your account. So,
Well, they're like chips, though, right? Like certain things are like they all look the same, but there could be different amounts on each one. Like it's physical, but it's like a data card still, though, right?
but
Is
I mean,
it? I thought it was actual. Here are some coins, or here are some bills. I thought that's what they were.
Well,
I didn't think they were. You read them.
I think it depends on the type of money. Like calamari flan, comes in like puck-like things. I think the credits come in things that look like chips, and they may have different denominations, but you're still physically handing somebody,
Yes.
here's your money, which means if they've got 200 million credits lying around, they actually have it lying around in some, storage area.
I bet that because I think Derek's right. Occasionally, it seems like the credit flashes, like it has a light up thingy, LED boop, But because Star Wars is analog, Star Trek is digital. So Star Wars is analog. So yeah, this is worth 1 credit, and it'll never be worth more than 1 credit. This is worth 5 credits. It'll never be worth more than 5 or less than 5 credits. But the blinky parts are to prevent counterfeiting them.
That does
It's
make
like
sense.
some sort of blockchain verification.
Some sort of chain code.
They love their chain codes in Star Wars.
Boom! Boom! Yes.
Yeah,
I just assume they're all gift cards. That's all.
And it does make sense that they would have some sort
No,
of...
because then you could change the value. That's not... No, that's digital. This is analog.
It does make sense that they would have some sort of anti-counterfeiting device, because otherwise, I guarantee you, the rebellion would counterfeit some money.
They'd
Like,
be splicing them.
Here's your 200 million credits.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Well, and it
Click,
definitely
click.
makes interesting too, because if I'm trying to remember, like in Andor, didn't the money look like it was gold plated?
And it looked like that at several points in Solo as well, when they were chunking money into the pot while they were playing Sabak.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah.
Well, and wasn't there an issue about it being Imperial printed money too? With it having like an imprint?
In Solo?
I thought it was Andor that had that. I'll have to go back and double check.
I'd have to watch the one episode when he goes in the shower and he pulls out this thing and looks at his money there and, has his gun and shit. So,
Yeah, I think there is a point where somebody comments to him about the box or the container had an Imperial imprint, and so he needed to ditch the container and then just keep the credits. I think that was right. I might be thinking of a different story.
there's so many of them.
There is,
Yeah.
and that's actually what I'm trying to remember is, am I thinking of some expanded universe thing that's no longer canon, where like the Empire had actually put, maybe it was Mandalorian.
Well, to go back though, we know that they use a transmission coding thing in Star Wars because they do have a credit system, right, in the computer. So in theory, the rebellion could, steal, hack into someone's bank account and steal it that way, right? But physically, it would just be, to your point, it would be digital. But to physically get it, though, it would be an analog gold plus whatever looking imperial indented. And again, that was just that, which is kind of the global currency. But locally, every planet probably had some type of currency, right? And it would just be, like you go to, another country, right? You get it so much for an imperial, dollars worth so much in whatever local currency, right? So.
Yeah, because the only currency that the Empire was encouraging people to trade in earlier in the series of the Bad Batch was Republic credits. Remember, there was that whole episode where it was Admiral Rampart, wasn't it, who was all like, turn in your Republic credits for Imperial credits.
Yeah.
I always like to draw parallels between Star Wars and MASH. And that reminds me of a particular episode of MASH where the military has their own currency that you use, within the military, and they were exchanging, I believe,
it's called cigarettes.
That's the underground thing. This was the official military currency. I can't remember if they had red money that they were exchanging out for blue, or if it blue money that you were exchanging out for red. But like all the officers had to go to a table and like turn in the money they had and exchange it for the other color of money that would become the new the currency, and it was to prevent counterfeiting. Like this is the new stuff. I'm trying to remember exactly how that episode went, but one of the officers like ended up being off base, but like had a whole bunch of the money, and the other officers were like, okay, and we'll trade that out for like 1/10 the price. Here you go. Here's your little bit of the new money for all your old wrong color money, because you had to be on the base at a certain time to exchange your money.
Yeah. You had to figure out the color of money. That's a whole different podcast. Okay, so, yes.
That's
I
what
think
it reminded
that,
me of, saying we have to exchange our Republic credits for the Imperial ones.
Plus we knew all the rebellions were backed by wealthy politicians anyways.
Mm-hmm. People playing both sides against the middle. I think that the premise of this article is all wrong. Like I said about 10 minutes ago, Akbar is talking about we have 200 million credits right now. Taking one issue of one Marvel Comics Star Wars series, because there's more than just the Star Wars main book. There's lots of other Star Wars books coming out each week, and trying to apply the logic there to the entirety of the story is just a fool's gambit. And I'm sure that Dude Man basically only did this so he could get a nice clickbaity headline of, we now know how rich the rebellion was in the entire original trilogy. No.
Or he
we
just
know how much money
left
they
through
had
his finance and accounting courses in schools.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't understand cash flow, as Nathan was explaining.
Could be.
I mean, kids nowadays don't. So
they're like, what's cash? I'm going to pay you with my PayPal. Or
you say kids nowadays don't. I used to work at a credit union, and let me tell you, plenty of adults have not known how cash flow works for as long as I've been an adult. Probably
for a long time.
But we didn't have them writing articles that they didn't know what about. Nowadays, anybody can write an article.
But I talked to plenty of people who the claim was always, there's money missing out of my account. Okay, do you recognize all these transactions? Yes, I do. So why is there money missing out of here? There's not.
Good times. Good times.
All right.
Well, speaking of cash flow and spending your money on things, why don't we talk about what Star Wars t-shirts we're wearing this week? Or, as we have expanded this segment of the show, to be Star Wars merch. And obviously I have a big one this week. We talked about it at the top of the show, but Chabam! It's True Moo. All of it. And that is
on the picture.
Boop, boop, boop. Let me see if I can get this to work. Let me embiggenate myself here. Boom.
Go.
Blue milk, baby. And it does indeed say from True Moo. I really think they missed the marketing opportunity to modify Han's line from The Force Awakens. It's True Moo, all of it. But I haven't seen that yet. Maybe they did that somewhere and I just didn't see it. But yes, it does also.
I know.
No.
Listen, you moof milker. All right. True Moo here says Star Wars Blue Milk, pour the power of protein. Way, way, way less inspiring than It's True Moo, all of it. And then it says, inspired by Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. I was really hoping that I could get a bottle that the expiration date was May the 4th, but the most recent one I could find was May 7th. Interestingly, this has a much longer shelf life than regular white milk. I'm going to try not to read too much into that. But yeah,
milk?
I might have an explanation for that. I know light has an impact on how milk degrades, which is why if you buy milk that's in a carton instead of milk that's in a plastic container like that you can see through, cartons tend to last longer because of that. Perhaps the fact that it's blue and not white affects how light affects it.
Okay, sure. Nobody go for the it's good because it's blue joke, but yeah, all right. Okay, so I'm going to
our listeners out there that can't see the picture. It's got Bespin, Cloud City, Luke Skywalker versus Vader in the duel on the front.
Why?
Yes.
Why would you have that and not a scene from Tatooine?
Yeah, that is a good
not
question.
As exciting.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
that's fair.
I mean, at least this is a duel in
Luke
which
and Owen Veru sitting at the counter. Of
it should be.
on Beru
It should be. It should be. What's his name from Andor pouring his blue milk on his sad bowl of cereal when he has to move back in with his mom.
Oh, yeah.
Cocoa Puffs.
Yes, the Star Puffs. Okay, I'm going to give you guys the review of the taste here. So I'm going to take a sip. Not that I haven't drunk a glass already tonight, but, just to be official.
I love how you pulled yourself like a full glass, too.
Well, yeah, you got to get that true Moo experience.
10 o'clock at night, drinking dairy, man.
Yes.
I'd be up all night.
It doesn't bother me, but also brave of you to assume that this is dairy and not thalassiren milk. No, wait, that's green. My bad. So it's really good. As I described when I posted on Facebook, and I think I put it in the What a Piece of Junk Facebook group, it's kind of like a slightly melted vanilla milkshake. It's very mellow, very subtle vanilla flavor. It's got a lot of sugar in it. It's like 23 grams for a serving, which means that's probably like 75 grams worth of sugar. Anyway, I like it. Now, when it's, it's limited time, and when it goes away, I'm not going to be lamenting, no, I can't get any more, and I am not going to be buying a jug and trying to freeze it somehow to preserve it or whatever, because, there's just too many YouTube channels and even cable TV programs these days where somebody's like, I've actually had this can of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pasta from 1993. Today I'm going to open it and see what it tastes like here in 2024. Bong. Guy is dead. R.I.P. YouTube host. So I'm not going to do that craziness. Now, I might rinse out the jug and keep it somewhere, or maybe even send it to our friends at Rancho Obi-Wan, because they love the empty container of Star Wars food merchandise to put on display at the museum at Rancho Obi-Wan. But I probably won't even do that. It's fun. I wouldn't call it delicious. Now, Derek, I know you said you don't really remember what the blue milk at Galaxy's Edge itself tasted like, but did it at least remind you of vanilla, or did it have something else in it?
I can't remember, to be honest. And then on top of that, a lot of people complain that it tastes terrible anyways. So maybe, like I said,
I did notice that this was inspired by blue milk at Galaxy's Edge. So it's probably not exactly the same, because this doesn't taste terrible.
Well, and it wasn't even like a really milk type deal drink either. It's like a alcoholic. You could do. It's almost kind of like a pina colada, but it wasn't good pina colada, right? It's like you could have made a pina colada and just dyed it blue, right? And that would have been fine. But it was like them trying to. I don't know. You can make good stuff, and just make it look like whatever you need to, but make real food, or real drinks. So, anyways, it was like a pina colada that I recall now, but it was, like I said, cheap and bad. Of course, the alcohol can help.
Nathan, please tell your Star Trek 6 story about blue food.
Yes. Part of the reason that we have blue food in science fiction stories and in Star Wars, even though that's not technically science fiction, but that's a whole nother tangent, is because there are no true blue foods. Even blueberries are purple. So it's an alien color to us as far as food is concerned. So if you want to make food look alien, you make it blue. Also, if you're trying to eat less, use blue plates. Blue is actually a natural appetite suppressant. You can eat less and still feel full because you're looking at blue. Whereas if you want to eat more, look at red plates. This is why a lot of fast food places use a lot of red in their marketing and not a lot of blue in most of their marketing.
Red Solo Cup?
Yeah, red Solo cups, yes. They're designed to get you to want more. Now, in Star Trek VI, they dyed a bunch of food blue for the dining scene with the Klingon contingent and the bridge crew of the Enterprise. And the actors did not want to eat any of it. And it was stuff like lobster that they dyed blue. And they were just like, no. To the point where Nicholas Meyer said, I will pay $100 to any of you who dares take a bite of this on film. And I can't remember which actor did it, but one of them did. And they were like, this is the grossest stuff ever. But it was because it's blue, and our minds tell us that's not food. So I do wonder how much of the this tastes bad is this is a blue drink.
Wow. Interesting. I don't hate it, but as Derek was pointing out, people at the park didn't really like it, and then you were saying blue is an appetite suppressant. So I'm like, normally if I have a nice glass of ice cold milk and I stir in some, I don't know, like Nesquik powder or something, and it's chocolatey or strawberry, I'll just be like, boom, let's go. But I can't chug this. Like, I'll take a few sips and be like, it's not because I want to spit it out or anything. It's just my body kind of goes, okay, I'm full. That's enough of that. And I'm like,
not, yeah.
Huh.
Your body's looking at that going, yeah, that's not really a drink.
So you need to either cover your eyes when you drink it or to add some like maybe red dye to it to make it purple. I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, they should come out with a strawberry milk from True Moo that is the opposite of this. You can put them next to each other and have like, blue lightsaber milk, red lightsaber milk.
That would be...
Mix them together.
So the other
Windu shake.
The other blue food story I have comes from Top Chef. Way back in season 2, when they had 7 contestants left, they did a challenge where everybody was assigned a color, and they had to make a plate of food based on that color. And of course, nobody got blue because there are no blue foods. So it was the colors of the rainbow.
What about blueberry?
And purple.
It's mostly purple.
As a matter of fact, the person who got purple, I believe, had blueberries in their dish.
I'm just trying to think if there's anything I could say that's else is blue.
That is natural food, not...
Well, I mean, I guess when you actually squish the blueberries, they are. But the skin color of blueberries is blue. It's a dark blue, more than purple. Like once you mix it,
indigo.
I'd say they're a good blueberries. But anyways, I'll digress that. Yeah, you're right. For the most part,
Nathan,
any blue would be.
What about blue raspberry?
That's purple.
It's not a real thing. It's not a real thing.
Yep.
Blue raspberry is completely manufactured.
Blue raspberry? Yeah. This is perfectly natural, sparkling, caffeinated water. Because, that natural water has caffeine in it.
Oh, caffeine itself is natural, at least.
Yeah, but it doesn't show up in water naturally.
No.
That's why.
All right. Derek, what do you got for Star Wars merch this week? Shirt, action figure, card, something? Comic book?
I got lots of stuff. I mean, I'm sorting through my Star Wars cards right now, so I could probably pull out anything you would ask me to pull out that I have. But I got a new shirt, but it's not Star Wars related. But I'm gonna show you guys anyways. So.
All right,
Science.
Science.
It's Ninja Turtles. It's four little turtles jumping into a vat of nuclear waste. Eat your heart out, mutagenic ooze. And of course, when they come out of the vat, they not only have assumed a more humanoid appearance, but they have gained ninja weapons and correctly colored bandanas.
Or incorrectly colored. The original Ninja Turtles all had red bandanas.
They're also black and white.
That's also true, yeah.
Anyways.
Boy, talk about we never expected this to be as successful as it was. Eastman and Laird are just like, I can't believe you people are still spending money on these things.
But on essentially a Daredevil parody.
Yep.
Even down to, we're not fighting the hand, we're fighting the foot.
Well, the fact that they're making the Ronin movie too now, so.
Uh-huh. It's like, every time you turn around, Eastman and Laird are just like, okay, we'll license it to you again. This is great.
I mean, come on, we're all living the American dream, right? It's like, that's what we would have done, right? So
I watched a documentary about Ninja Turtles many years ago, and sadly, at that moment in time, Eastman and Laird weren't getting along with each other. I think they may be okay with each other now, unless... Did one of them die? Anyway, Nathan, while you talk about your Star Wars merch, I'll fire up my Google Foo.
All right, well, yes, you do that. I am wearing a very special Star Wars shirt today. This is my Grogu shirt in the Nintendo Entertainment System style 8-bit. Grogu, this is the way. And the reason I'm wearing this particular shirt is because I, too, have a non-Star Wars merch thing I'd like to show off that I got yesterday at Dr. Nose in Atlanta. This is a set of dice that comes in an NES cartridge. This is not The Legend of Zelda. It says The Legendary Hero on it and Healing Heart.
And it's gold.
It is gold, yep. They did have some gray ones that were based on other video games, but it came with a little pouch of 1-up dice here. And the dice themselves, I'll show you one of the D6s, have 8-bit graphic numbers on them.
Those are cool.
And they've even got hearts as the maximum number on each die. So that's really cool. And I got a little tray. The cartridge opens up so I can roll the dice in the tray. It's awesome. So the fact that it reminded me of the NES era stuff is why I'm wearing the NES Grogu shirt today. All right. Did I stall for enough time for you to find Eastman and Laird?
Yes, you did. And essentially, the major issue they had was that it's not like they feuded with each other, but they sort of grew apart because Laird was more about doing the Turtles and kept on doing it, whereas Eastman moved to San Diego and decided that he wanted to work on bigger projects in comic bookdom, while Laird stayed behind in Massachusetts and kept making Ninja Turtle stuff. Also, I didn't know this. Eastman is 10 years younger, or thereabouts, than Laird. So their attitudes on life and whatnot are quite different. And it's not so much that they never really hated each other or anything, but like you said, Nathan, they did it on a lark as a Daredevil spoof. They sort of just worked together because they knew each other and they were involved in comics and they thought it would be funny. And then it was mega hit and they found themselves stuck with each other for like project after project because the higher-ups and honestly their own bank accounts were like, dude, look at all this money you guys are making, you gotta keep working together. And you crunch together creatives like that for extended periods of time with hard deadlines, and people have a strained relationship, and apparently these days Laird continues to do Massachusetts Turtles stuff, and Eastman is doing other stuff. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, if you guys want your own cool merchandise for What a Piece of Junk, of course, you can check out our store at tpublic.com. Go ahead and help us have our own Ninja Turtles level success there. Or not, just get a cool t-shirt or mousepad or pillow or coffee mug or whatever you like. And you can find it over at tpublic.com. Just search up Fandom Podcast Network in the search bar. And speaking of the internet, Nathan, where can people find our show out on the interwebs?
You can find us pretty much anywhere pods are cast, and that includes Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, and even on YouTube itself. And wherever you do find us, please like, subscribe, leave comments, leave reviews, that sort of thing. We love all of that. You can reach us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is What a Piece of Junk, a Star Wars podcast. You can email us at whatapieceofjunkpod@gmail.com. On the remnants of Twitter, now known as X, we're at What Wars. On Instagram, we are at Fandom Podcast Network, and that, of course, reaches the entire podcast network, all those lovely shows that Kevin told us about earlier. And as I mentioned, please do leave us reviews, likes, all that sort of thing. Those really help other people find our channel, find out more about our podcast. Lets us know what we're doing well and what we're not doing well, what we could be doing better. And Derek, can you tell us specifically about those 5-star reviews and why we want them so much?
Well, because at this point we need those Imperial credits. So, we don't want to be at the brink of being, completely bankrupt, as Admiral Akbar would say. So we need those to make sure we get the show going, because if we don't have 200 million 5-star reviews, then they're going to shut us down. So please tell all your friends, tell all your family members, tell people you don't know. Go ahead out there, download, stream the podcast, or watch the YouTube, whatever. Leave, subscribe, leave a review, specifically 5-star reviews.
I need more milk money, people. I'm going to run out of blue milk. I got to go buy some more. So please give us some 5-star reviews. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us for this episode of the podcast. Please remember to hit us up between shows on social media to let us know what exactly we can do to make things better. But don't complain too badly if we screw it up, because there's no use crying over spilled milk. All right, Nathan, punch it.